Good morning. Okay, I'm going to try something new today. All right, I have just put a link in the comments. That is the homework for day 3. Probably you won't be able to look at it as you're running the video, but you can look at it later or DM me and I'll email it. Okay, so day 3. The first day we talked about identifying our wounds when it comes to comparison. So this looked like actually figuring out what things in other women trigger us and put us in a place of criticism, comparison, competition. If you weren't here or you didn't get that homework, that's fine. I can send that to you. Just DM me your email. Yesterday, we moved then from identifying our wounds and bringing that awareness to now what do we even do with this? And we learned how to seek the good from each woman, how we can rewire our minds instead of seeing another woman as a threat, seeing her as a resource. And now today, we're going to talk about identifying your contribution by first designing your self-image. Now, self-image, self-worth, self-image, people are like, okay, is this like navel gazing, meditating on the great self and self-love, which looks like eating bonbons and drinking wine? We are not talking about that. We're talking about a consideration of self-image for the purpose of contribution, for the purpose of mission, okay? What is it that you are here to add to the lives of others, okay? What you tell yourself about yourself is going to affect your contribution. It's going to affect the lives of others, okay? Just always bear in mind that what you think about yourself is going to be intricately bound up in the lives of others, because you are going to act upon your thoughts, at least at a subconscious level. Okay, so the homework today, we're just going to jump into it. Today might be a little shorter than the other days. This is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of dark in here. By the way, I want to show you this room. My husband set this up. This is our coffee / bar / hangout, complete with cafe lights and a leather couch. It's fabulous and it's super quiet. Okay. All right. So this is, I don't know if you can really see it. This is what we call the arena. The arena represents every area of your life. And the goal as a human is to have a full integrated life that brings all the parts together, right? It's not just like you can keep your marriage over here and you can keep your social life over here. They're all intricately connected, right? If you're really suffering in one, it's going to affect the others. So how do we manage the whole arena without chaos, right? We're going to talk about that today. So the first thing you're going to think about is what do you want to be? Who do you want to be? It can be a little bit overwhelming, but if you go, I don't know, compartment by compartment, and then realize how connected they are, it's much more manageable. So the first thing we're going to consider is your self-image. Okay, describe your best self. And I'm not talking about your best self today. I'm talking about your best self to work towards. What does Mary look like 3 months from now after working on herself? What is her sense of self? Now, there are 2 things I want you to do. As you go through this, as you attack each area, you have to choose a woman who you admire or you're a little bit jealous of with each part of your arena. Okay, so self-image. I want to be confident about the work I bring to the table. And I know that my friend Liz at church is really good at that. So you're going to write, I am confident, and then just write her name, Liz. You can come back later and write out a detail, what it is specifically about Liz and the specific things she does or models for you that you can learn from. Okay, the next thing is health. So here we define health as physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental. Okay, and when you think of mental, I like to think of not just you're peaceful, that's sort of a baseline, but go beyond just peaceful. Is there something you want to study? Is there something you want to learn more about? Include that also. So it's not just peace, but it's growth. Okay, peace and growth. Okay. Your optimal health. What does your optimal health look like physically? Let's say you get movement in, you get your heart rate up every day. I am a woman who gets her heart rate up every day. And I know that my friend Beth is really good at that. She has 10 kids, but somehow she manages to get that in. What does that look like? Does it look like a walk to the park? Whatever, just right. I move every day. Beth. Emotional. Maybe you want to gain greater emotional command. Maybe you're a crier. Maybe you're a yeller. But you know that your friend Rebecca does a really good job at always maintaining a rational, firm when necessary tone of voice with her kids. So you're going to write, I am peaceful but firm when necessary, Rebecca. Okay. Spiritual. You want to start meditating 15 minutes every morning. You want to take some time to sit with Jesus, to think about your day, to give him your wins, your losses, 15 minutes a day. You know that older gal at church, Peggy, did that while raising all 7 of her kids. You're going to talk to Peggy about how she got that in every day, and continues. Okay, 15 minutes, Peggy. All right, mental health. Okay, so we're going to talk about, like I said, the baseline of peace and mental resilience, but then also growth. Okay, so I actually know somebody like this. Gertrude. Her name's not really Gertrude. Gertrude was living in Germany during World War II, and she was actually forced into becoming a Hitler Youth. And ultimately, her mother escaped Germany on a bicycle, and then somehow got to this country. Gertrude has always been one of the most calm, sweet, charming German ladies I've ever known. She has this great accent. She's quite a bit, she's, I don't know how old she is now, but she's actually a shoe repair lady. Anyway, side note, super interesting gal. But she's a very mentally resilient woman. So I'm going to talk to Gertrude about mental resilience while the world's burning down. Okay, and then growth. How, especially if you're a mom, but definitely if you're single, work on this while you're single so you can have this habit. What is it that you want to learn more about? My brother and I really are right now learning about how to preserve meat without refrigeration, and it does require some study time. And then as much as possible, I bring Athanasius into the work in the kitchen. Like I let him help mix things up, and we talk about washing our hands, things like that. So we have a friend who's good at that. So we're going to talk to her about the meat preservation. Okay. Another thing that I've been doing is Thursday nights it's like an hour and a half. I log on to this free course about the church fathers, and my husband sits with me sometimes. The kids will play off to the side. So if you can set something aside like that, do you know somebody who does that consistently? Is there a girlfriend you can invite to do it with you? Okay, so free church fathers class. Okay, moving on to the next section. That's health. Describe what friendships of growth look like. Okay, let's say you have some friendships where there's a lot of catty talk going on, okay? with your friend Sally. And whenever you get together, it's just a complaining fest. I want you to set a goal the next time you see this person to make a point to not only avoid it, but to say something positive about somebody. It's going to be easier to do this if you put a time limit on the hangout time. I have personally found that if it's just like this indefinite period of time, you just wear down. At the same time, I want you to identify 2 women in your life. Again, maybe you're jealous of them, who seem to have a really good, wholesome friendship fueled by their mission. Maybe it's a mutual mission, maybe it's separate, but you can tell that together they are cheering each other on, okay? I remember when I was a teenager, there were these 2 girls, we'll call them Brittany and Courtney, who really seemed like they pushed each other forward, and they both are very successful now in very different ways, but I know they've continued to stay close. Find somebody like that, study them, and then think about how you can work that into that other relationship that turns into a complaint fest, okay? So Brittany and Courtney, mutual mission in cheerleading, okay? Accountability is key. You can go so much further when you have some accountability. And while you can choose your husband, you can choose, I don't know, your sister. Sometimes you need somebody who makes you a little more uncomfortable, so consider that option. Okay, describe your highest self in your relationship. What does your highest self look like in your marriage, your dating life, your best friend, a particular parent? Okay, I'm married, so I'm going to talk about my marriage, but also I am going to touch on dating. So one thing my husband and I are always striving to do is to sit down once a month and go over money, and to do it in a peaceful way that is not just based on we need to spend less, but also we're building towards this goal. Maybe you want a farm, maybe you just want a bigger house in town, but talk about how you're moving towards that. Take some time to be like, and when we get there, this is what we're going to do. Talk about the fun things. Maybe you'll never get there, but it's cheap and it's free to have those kinds of fun conversations. Particularly when it comes to money, the goal is to be able to approach it without anger and frustration. How do you do that? What does that look like? Who do you know that does that? So I know Fred and Irma. Fred and Irma at church are really good at this. They're older. Money talk. And making it fun. Okay. That's who's going to help me with that. If you are single and the concern is maybe there isn't a relationship, or you're dating people and you're like, okay, this is kind of the focus right now. How do I get something out of that? Find a girl out there who dates and seems to maintain peace. I know this could be a little bit humbling, because especially if you're not already friends with her, to approach her and be like, hey, how do you date people and maintain any sort of sanity? You should do that. Maybe she just got married. Maybe that girl just got married. Go talk to her, okay? I recommend, when I started doing this, it made a big difference. In fact, that is when I met my spouse, is if you approach your dating relationships with this mindset, I am here to contribute something to this person's life. And at the very minimum, my goal is to send him away better than he was when we first met. You release yourself from having to get something out of every date. Just show up to make that person a better person and have a nice time. That's my recommendation. Find a girl who does that. Okay, the next section of the arena is, what legacy would you like to leave? This is under contribution. Okay, and then I want you to write 3, 5, 10, 20, and then death. In 3 years, what do you want people to know that you have contributed? In 5 years, what do you want that contribution to look like? In 10 years, in 20 years, and then after you die, what contribution do you want to leave? Who do you know that has left a great contribution? And pick somebody for each of those time increments. The posthumous legacy could be somebody in history. It could be a saint. It could be an inventor. It could be both. You don't have to pick just somebody from the Bible or a saint. In fact, I would recommend that you pick somebody who is, you admire them specifically for some secular way they showed up. Like maybe they were good at organizing people. They were good at making money. They were committed to their academic endeavors, something like that. Okay, so somebody who has a contribution that I really admire while she was living, but also after she died, is Alice von Hildebrand. She wrote a book called Memoirs of a Happy Failure. I highly recommend it. It's incredibly interesting. She was a philosophy professor starting in the 30s or 40s out on the East Coast, back when she was a philosophy professor. Women were typically not philosophy professors at that time, but she did her job in a very feminine but still disciplined way. And she was persecuted. Anyway, very interesting gal. Okay, next section of the arena is environment. What is environment? Okay, if you're a woman and you're married, your environment is going to be the home. If you're a woman and you're single, the environment is going to be the home you someday hope to make, and one that cultivates contribution now as a single person. It cultivates a good social life. It cultivates culture, right? If you're a man, because I see there are some men on here right now, the environment is going to look like one of excellence, one that lacks effeminacy, but at the same time, it offers encouraging accountability, right? When we say, "Our Father who art in heaven," then we go on to talk about these good, almost childlike things we hope to get from him. God is a loving Father. How are you holding people accountable as a man, but also nurturing them when things are difficult? Are you encouraging academic excellence, physical discipline, but also healthy diet and rest when necessary? So one thing for me and my husband when it comes to environment is we like having a home that people can relax, but also walk away encouraged. So one of my things is I strive to be able to feed people. So what do I have on hand? I make sure I have certain things on hand so that if more people are going to show up for dinner, I can easily accommodate that. This cafe I showed you, I'll show you again because there's new people on. This is our bar / part of our library / hangout spot, and it's super cozy. I mean, there's like all the kids' junk back there. You can't see it, but it's just a little contribution towards our environment. So when Robert has guy friends over, they'll have a drink, they'll read, they'll talk. It's super nice. So it might just be the nursery. Maybe you just need to clean up the nursery. Maybe you need to organize the kitchen. What can you do to streamline your life in the home so you can show up for people? You can be emotionally present for others, right? Okay, so the next section is wealth. This is a touchy one. What is wealth? I am defining wealth as time, talent, and treasure. Okay, it's not just money in the bank, although you can definitely use that. I want you to think about, if you had an abundance of time, talent, and treasure, what would you put that towards? okay? If you had a little extra money, what time could that buy you to contribute to others? It might just be like if you get a house cleaner to help you once a week, you can take that time to take the kids to adoration and then an hour or two at the park. Okay, it's a nice reset every week. Maybe it looks like let's say you know Latin, you're excellent at Latin. There are all these homeschool families at church who want their kids to teach Latin. If you can work to get a babysitter and then teach Latin, how will you contribute? Maybe you really like teaching it, and so this is a refreshing thing, but it also serves others. I joke that when I'm rich, I'm going to travel the world collecting all of the art from churches that are being closed, and then I'm going to rehome it in chapels that are thriving where people actually want it. Something like that. What would you do with an abundance of time, talent, and treasure? Don't ask yourself how you're going to get that. You are not allowed to ask yourself how you're going to get that. Find somebody at your church, especially consider the older people who are doing that. But do find young people who are doing that. It's not as common. It's super refreshing when you can find it. But I do know somebody who my husband and we regularly kind of check in to see what they're doing, and it's really encouraging. So find somebody. We're going to say, I actually know somebody who does make me, I'm like, ooh, if I could have that. There's a little bit of jealousy there. We'll call her Mandy. Mandy, time, talent, treasure. Okay. Oh, I forgot with environment. Find somebody who has a really organized house and ask her how she does it. Okay. Describe your highest self in your family. I know a family, we'll call them the Smiths, really original, and they homeschool, but they also have a farm, and they're just very down-home, simple, happy people. I don't necessarily need to have exactly what they have, but the fact that their kids are so kind and helpful and just without guile. They just live their lives. They're not really distracted by anything outside the family unit. That has always really edified me, and that actually is something I do need to check in with them and ask them, hey, Mrs. Smith, how is this happening? I do think the immediate pressures of the farm just keep people centered and focused, but anyway, what family do you know, who do you know that their family life is such that you're like, I want that? And if you're single, how can you start working towards that now? So the Smiths. Simple, peaceful. All right, so that brings us to the end of the first page. The next page, it's mostly blank, but it says, one thing I really like about myself is ... What I want you to do with this is to look at yourself right now and to make a note of the things about your own temperament, your own personality, your own life, for which you are very grateful. And they're, say you are you're organized, okay? And you're really grateful that you have that in your life, because if you weren't organized, X, Y, and Z would not work, okay? It might sound funny, it might feel silly, but like, I want you to do it. I want you to write down your talents for which you are grateful. They can be super little. I stack the dishwasher better than anybody else I know. Whatever it may be, write it down. Do include some big things though. And then ask yourself, how can I approach this strength with generosity and actually get better? How can I push myself outside of my comfort zone in that talent area? How can I help not just myself, but others? And it doesn't have to be outside the home. It can be outside the home. But how can you either pass that on to your kids or use it to help your spouse in his own project, something like that. Organization specifically, let's just talk about that just for the sake of the mental exercise. If you're an organized person, you should pass that on to your kids. Even if they are temperamentally disorganized, they can still learn that skill. It makes a huge difference as an adult when you can actually find your birth certificate, when you can, I don't know, balance the checkbook. Nobody knows what that means because nobody uses a checkbook, but like you can keep all of your financial records in order. When you have to go back and find your tax information for something, no sweat, you have it filed away. That is a really practical, really helpful skill. Go through that exercise with anything. How can you pass on these talents to other people? How can you serve others with these talents? Okay, so that is the exercise for today. Your challenge is to fill this out. I want you to fill out this sheet, and the rule is you cannot ask yourself how it's going to get done, but you do have to list the name of one woman whom you're at least a little jealous, who you can model your own growth after. All right, that's it. I'm signing off. Send me your email if you want a copy of the video, because I don't know why, if somebody can tell me, when I try to upload these recordings as reels, it cuts them short, and it's not even always to the same length of time. Like if there was a 10-minute rule, that would make sense, but this one will be 6 minutes and then this one will be 15. So let me know if you know how that works. I'm going to try to figure that out today. In the meantime, have a great day. Thanks for showing up.